This episode of Skirmish Supremacy is brought to you by Reformation Brewery, the official beer of your game night.
Oh, totally classic right there.
Yeah.
But instead you failed and you had to hit it a few minutes late.
Yeah, our shit's broken. But anyway, folks, welcome back to another episode of Skirmish Supremacy. Tonight, you're going to be bored off your asses with just Nick and myself, so no special guests tonight. We were going to have a couple people that had some Gen Con hotness, but if you've ever been to a major convention like that, you know that con crud is a thing. And when it hits you like a Mack truck, and I would not wish that on anybody after going to a lot of conventions. So tonight, Nick and I are going to be covering a couple of topics. One of the big ones is some of the video content that we have coming out, and I guess how we're structuring it is a good way to put it.
I guess, yeah. Right? Basically because we're not. No.
Yeah,
my goal...
We've been filming stuff, but it just unfortunately has not been going the way we've wanted it to as far as getting content out on a regular basis.
Right. Well, you know, part of that I can totally own up to. I suck at having time to seem to edit videos. Well, that, and I know that it's been a little bit more than daunting for me looking at it, you know, going, okay, I've got to edit this. I don't know how the fuck to use this stuff. And normally that doesn't throw me off, but then I look at the other list of things that I have to do because, of course, it's me. I had to, overextend myself. And I go, you know what? This stuff looks easier. I'll come right back. You don't go anywhere. I'll be right back.
Right. So speaking of the daunting stuff, obviously we talked a little bit about Robin coming on, and he's kind of, I guess, team member 3 of Skirmish Supremacy, and he is now seeing the daunting stuff that we've got to do. We were actually talking a little bit today online about the fact that we keep setting ourselves up with all this extra shit to be going on. So there's a lot that's kind of going on behind the scenes, and if you were to see our painting desks and painting schedules, for the most part, most people would run in fear, and they would never look back. But not us. We're brave little boys, and we're going to tackle it head on. So, we started going through our revised list of stuff that we need to film. So video-wise, we do have some stuff that will be coming out soon on the channel. For those of you that tuned into the Exiles live stream, thank you for that. We are going to be doing some more live stream kind of stuff. For example, this Saturday's Blood and Plunder. We'll touch on that in a minute. But we do have some videos that need to get edited and out there. So what do we have right now, Nick? I'm drawing a blank outside of Scrappers.
So we've got the Scrappers. I had the sit-down and unboxing with Massive Awesome that I plan on editing and putting out there for everyone to see because, just a lot of good stuff in that unboxing. Then we have, like you said, Scrappers, and I don't remember how many we recorded that day of Frostgrave. I know at least one, but I want to say 2, but...
I think it was 2.
But, we have at least one, so, right now we have about a month's worth of content that I can think of right off the bat. And we are lining up to do some more. So the goal is I'm going to release a video a week, at least starting out, until we get a little bit more regular on everything that we're filming. And just kind of go from there. So
yeah, so far scheduling's been kind of a logistical nightmare. Just with everything we've got going on, finding a regular time once a month to film has been lately kind of a pain in the ass, but we're gonna keep at it. But our goal is to really hammer out a lot of filming one day out of the month and hopefully be able to produce 3-4 videos out of that is kind of what we're planning for right now.
Hopefully, and some of them won't be very long games, which is a good thing because we can get some more content in. But also, I know we both have some other people. The biggest problem is we both live an hour from each other, and even if we meet at Gigabytes, it's still damn near an hour for both of us to get there.
Right, and then there's set up at Gigabytes, making sure that there's not too much noise, and there's a whole bunch of stuff that goes on with that. So, ideally, with those, we'll probably try to film at one of our homes when we get everything set up. But
right,
we'll see.
So there is that, but there are a few people near me, and there's a couple people near you that have all kind of agreed. Hey, they're willing to come on and film with us some of their different games. I know I've got a person really interested in filming a bunch of Relic Blade, and then Dust. And that's kind of important because we've got a Dust game coming up at Gigabytes end of October.
Yes, we've actually got some of the staff from Dust coming in specifically for that. So we should be having some really cool content at that point. Hopefully some sneak peeks. That's the one thing that we keep kind of hinting at Gregoire about is we need some sneak peeks on stuff when he gets here.
Definitely. So, we'll have that going on. So filming some Dust. I've got a couple people because I finally, I've watched a bunch of Saga games, but I finally got some demo time in on it, and I had fun playing the game, and so I'm looking forward to playing more of the game and filming some of it.
Right. So Saga's one that I am hopefully going to eventually get into here once I clear off my desk a little bit. I know I've talked about it in the past. Like this year, my big focus, just because of the fact that the wife and I are adopting kids, I do not want to purchase another miniature until the stuff that I currently have on my desk is completely painted. For those of you that have been following me on the various groups, as far as Guerrilla Miniatures Games, Hobby Resolutions 2017, Paint a Model a Week, I've really posted too much in the Hobby Hangout. I don't know why. I think it's just because I keep forgetting about it. So my current model count to date since I started in March is, when I finish the Blood and Plunder stuff tomorrow, is actually going to be 234 models. I've got in front of me right now that I'm actually kind of working on as we speak, 22 scratch built pieces of terrain. I finished up a massive set of Black Side X and Black Side Armageddon from Death Ray Designs. That was 130 pieces. You'll actually see that in the Scrappers video. So there was a lot of work that went into that. I got some stuff done from Atchison Creations. The Grody Half Fort set was a big one. There was 11 pieces to that. I've got some other stuff that I've been working on here and there. But I have been straight out beast mode, to say the least, when it comes time to this kind of stuff, because when I set a goal, I want it done. Especially with some of the stuff that I have coming up this next year that I'm really going to need to focus on. My time for painting models is going to drop significantly. So the more I can get done now, the better.
Yeah, which, it's funny. I was having all this time to paint models, and I was getting a ton of them out, and then I set up a couple, big dates, and it seemed like my time to paint models disappeared.
As it does.
I was like, this kind of figures. So we've mentioned it a couple times, and I guess actually it'll be in the past by the time people listen to this, but this upcoming weekend we have the Blood and Plunder Games Day at Gigabytes, and I'm supposed to have a bunch of, guys for people to, demo and play with that don't have it. And most of them aren't really all that painted. They're base coated with, quick sprays. But, so
I've gone totally beast mode on that. I'll have 99 models done by the time that day rolls around.
Well, I'll have almost 200.
That's true. Yeah.
Or I am certainly praying that I beast moded out and kick ass with it.
Yeah. So any of you that are into miniature painting know that, like, if you procrastinate for a while, or like you just have like a really, really full desk, like, well, I'm going to say the three of us at this point, because Robin's list is pretty ridiculous as well. Like, your beast mode, it starts off like really like hardcore. You think like, you know, competition, and like you're just going for it. And then about 3/4 of the way through, it turns into more like that mad panic screaming that you would picture somebody doing on like a starship in a movie as it's blowing up. That's kind of what happens. So your beast mode kind of turns into panic and scream mode, but you're still working on it.
Yeah, so. Yeah, that's definitely very true. And I also was finishing up. I had taken on a commission for Benson Green. He needed a bunch of Civil War type guys painted up for some of his games he was running, not at Gen Con, but at a brewery in Indianapolis at the same time as Gen Con. And that whole thing, even though I kept talking about Gen Con coming, you know, it kind of snuck up on me, and I had to knock all of them out really, really fast. Well, and it also didn't help that I had worked on them some, and I was like, yeah, I'm at that part where I'm happy. And then I, you know, looked at him one day, you know, well, actually a couple days before he needed them, and I went, I don't like the base color I used for them. It wasn't the right color. So it was supposed to be a brownish gray, and I had used just a light gray, and so it was bothering me. But I misplaced the color I thought it was that I was going to use, and I just grabbed the other one thinking it was it when I was base coating them. So yeah, that was 30 plus guys that, you know, 2 days beforehand completely got repainted. 14 hours later, they were done,
as they should be.
Yep. And you know, I kind of, you know, like the fact that I had to do that in a panic, because I did learn a lot about speed painting.
Yeah, that'll force you to learn real fast.
Yeah, you know, definitely, you know, a lot in, you know, how I was painting the whole units, because I still have that habit of trying to treat each man in a unit as a special little snowflake. And when you have armies, you can't do that.
No, you cannot. You got to save that for like the sergeants and the cool models, and that's about it. The rest of it is all rank and file. Too bad, so sad. You all suck. That's why you're not going to be known when this war's over. But yeah. So speaking of models and painting and planning and whatnot, I guess we should probably kind of talk a little bit about some of the stuff that we have coming up. One of the big ones I'm actually excited about. For those of you that kind of follow us on Instagram and whatnot, you probably saw that we got early copies of Frostgrave Ghost Archipelago. You should all feel exceedingly jealous, and you should be sending us hate mail immediately. But yeah, so that's one of the things that I'm actually really excited to start on. And I know we've been talking about it quite a bit, even before we got the books in the mail, which was a pleasant surprise. So Christian, if you're listening to this, thank you very much for that. But we have been talking pretty nonstop since its announcement about what we were going to do to cover the game. And yeah, now we're kind of moving forward on that. And on top of that as well, another Osprey title is we're going to be filming some Dracula's America, which I'm actually really excited about as well. It's kind of a Weird West alternate history. Basically, Lincoln won the war, and then Dracula took over and became president for life in perpetuity. So yeah, there's a lot of really cool stuff that's kind of going on in the background. You can play the game either as your traditional kind of Hollywood Western, and then of course you could add in the Weird West stuff as well. So like with that one, for example, I'm actually playing the Native Americans, which in this case are going to be the Skinwalkers. So I will actually have access to werewolves and werebears. Nick, you are playing Twilight Order, correct?
Yeah, I'm gonna be doing the Twilight Order, which is Crusaders. They actually come to hunt down freaks like you.
They are the legit monster hunters.
They are. They're the
The Van Helsings?
Helsings. God, it like was there, and I'm like, I can even see how to spell the stupid name. Yes, the Van Helsings. It would help if I didn't say Vel Helsings. That's what threw me off. But yeah, so they've got Crusaders and Silver Bullets. Actually, you get 2 unique guys when you start off that are Crusaders, and they've got all of their weapons automatically get for free silver bullets. And from they
get silver weapons, everything, right?
Yeah, everything's. I mean, the guns themselves aren't silver; they just have silver bullets for it. It's well, actually, I would have to look at it again because I think it says silver ammunition.
Okay,
so
which normally you have to buy, and it can actually get pretty expensive.
Right. And from what I was reading, they basically have an endless supply of it. Now, they can't give it to anyone else, so there is a limitation there, but that's not a terrible limitation, especially when there's a werebear. Though, if you're gonna have a werebear, you got to make it an owlbear.
I've got some Wild West Exodus models, so I've got the Geronimo and the Sitting Bull models from way back in the first edition that I plan on using because those sculpts need to come out and be shown in their full glory once again. I was going to use the actual full-blown natives on this, but since it's a 28 millimeter game, all the models of Wild West Exodus, if they're human size, are 35 millimeter. And I actually did a comparison the other day, showed Robin and Nick, and they look like freaking giants. So I was like, okay, I got to find some different Native Americans.
They do. It was pretty comical. Great
sculpts. Just it's a little too big for the scope for what we're doing.
Yeah, I was looking at using some of those as well because I have a mishmash of Wild West Exodus because I saw it and I thought this is not a test immediately. Especially, I can't think of who it is right now. But there's one of the guys. He's got he's a judge. He's got the judge curls and all that, and he's got a great big hammer. And all I could think of is a road judge from TNT and him smashing down on wrongdoers.
Yeah, speaking of TNT, this is not a test. We'll be getting some love. I'm not exactly sure when we have that one planned yet. I know we kind of started talking about it today, but I know that was one that got kind of bumped forward on the list, if you want to call it that. So you'll be seeing some This Is Not a Test action coming up as well. Obviously, for Ghost Archipelago, Dracula's America, Blood and Plunder, we're going to keep doing that one just because we both like playing pirates and shooting each other in the face.
Definitely.
I know I'm missing some. What else do we have on the list?
So we've talked about Broken Contract. That's on the list. Free Blades from DGS Games. We also talked about there's sitting right in front of me, Wild in the Streets from Slow Death Games. Just a possibly even some Relic Blade. I mentioned that earlier. Getting that in there as well. I can't think of what else we said. We said a whole lot, and then we said we needed to organize these into our lists. And I guess we went, nope, too much work right now, and went back to doing our real jobs.
That's kind of how that went. If memory serves me correctly, we were like, yes, let's plan this out. Okay, now work takes over. But so we've got a lot on the list. Some post-apoc, some fantasy, some Wild West. I don't think we have anything that's like straight space opera sci-fi right now, do we? We have talked about Rogue Stars. Oh yes, that's right, we have.
And then possibly getting into Dead Zone.
Yes, Dead Zone is one that I'm actually pretty excited about. So, folks, if you haven't played Dead Zone by Mantic Games, I am going to sit here and say I highly recommend it. No, Mantic is not sponsor us to say anything of the sort. I just happen to really like the game. If you are kind of new to the miniatures hobby and like the idea of a tape measure and all that stuff still kind of scares you, or if you're a board gamer that's wanting to get into a miniatures game, Dead Zone is definitely a good way to start because you only have like 200 points worth of models, which is usually like 5 to 6 models. There's a couple pieces of terrain on a 2 foot by 2 foot table, and it's all measured in 3 inch by 3 inch by 3 inch cubes. So even your movement is like you might only move 1 cube per movement, which means you move 1 square. Now, where it still acts like a miniatures game is like, let's say in that square, if it's on the ground and they're in one corner of that 3 inch by 3 inch square, there is a couple barrels that will act as cover. Well, if you move into that square and just leave yourself in the open, you will be treated as being in the open when people are shooting at you. However, if you do move your model in behind that cover, just like you would do in any typical miniatures game, then you get cover. So it's probably the best blending I have found so far of the board game miniatures hybrid, where it's actually trying to be a good mix of both. That and Space Rats.
Space Rats.
So
Space Rats
yeah,
are cool.
That's kind of my little 3-minute pitch of Dead Zone. So it's a great game, great system. I definitely am looking forward to that. I know that Robin definitely wants to get some plague action in. And you're wanting either Rebels or Marauders because, well, Space Orcs with lots of grenades sounds like fun.
And Rebels because, I mean, you know, why not?
Yeah, exactly.
Though it was kind of funny. We started talking about it. Tim and I talked about it a while back, and you know, I said, you know, this is kind of what I'm thinking, and the first one was Rebels, and I was actually purposely leaning away from Forge Fathers because, you know, it seems like everyone assumes that if there's a dwarf faction, I'm going to go straight for the dwarves. I know every time Tim talks about a new game, he's like, "There's dwarves."
Well, let's face it.
You know, I was purposely
you tend to go towards the dwarves.
Hey, the short people need recognition, all right?
This is very true.
But yeah, so we started talking about it again out of the blue the other day, and almost immediately afterwards, Robin goes, "So I could see Nick running either the Forge Fathers or more likely the Rebels." And I went, "Well, damn it."
Yeah, it's there's a lot of different choices in the game too. So like you've got a little bit of everything. If you want like your humans and badass power armor, you have that. You got space actually armor because of the fact that they're really good at machinery. You got space elves that control killer robots, which is actually pretty funny when you think about it. Because usually when you think of space elves, most people, they think of the Eldar. They think about like all these elves out on the battlefield. Well, in Dead Zone, if there's a legitimate, well, they call themselves the Asterians. If there's a legitimate Asterian on the board, shit got real. Because they're a hyper advanced race that are all very kind of like innate psychic and everything else. So the whole army consists of these robots that are controlled by Asterians that are in spaceships in orbit above whatever planet they're fighting on. So even though it's like a robot faction, it's actually elves. And if there's 1, maybe 2 elves on the board, those are probably your primary targets because they're probably the leader and like an exceedingly beefy badass of some sort that is going to be really good at shooting models in the face.
I don't like being shot in the face. So yeah, have to shoot them first.
So yeah, that's kind of the pitch on Dead Zone. Great game. I recommend it. If you haven't played it yet, go out and play it. Starters are only $40. Really easy to get into. So, and the great thing with the starters too, you spend that $40 and you've got like more than enough options to get your 200-point army. Yeah, at that point, you need a handful of D8s and the command dice. You can use a couple D6 for the command dice if you wanted to. There's a quick and easy chart, but they have custom command dice as well that work just as easily. So, yeah, we plan on doing that. That's probably going to be our, I guess if you want to call it the quote-unquote space opera game. We plan on going back into Scrappers a little bit more, playing a little bit more on that. I actually want to play my Gamma Lords this next time around. So I know that I started off with, why am I forgetting the name of them all of a sudden? The Architects, which for those of you listening, if you haven't picked up Scrappers yet, or if you've been kind of just paging through it a little bit, they're very similar to I guess you want to call them the Brotherhood of Steel from Fallout. The only difference of it is instead of them being all human, they're a slight mix of true human, new man, which are mutants, and a little smattering of synths, which are cyborgs and androids in there as well. So they're primarily human, but they smatter a little bit of everything else in there. Their whole job is to preserve the tech of the past, militant way. So that was what I played the first time around. You'll see that in the video. But this next time around, I really, really, really want to get my Gamma Lords out there, which are the straight mutant faction.
Which is funny because you opted not to, because I was talking about running freelancers and having some mutants in there. And then Robin was kind of leaning towards that. And then he went, well, and you're like, all right, I'm going to go play this so that we're not all, running mutants. And then almost immediately afterwards, because Robin hadn't really made up his mind yet, almost immediately afterwards, Robin's like, all right, I'm running the robot faction.
And at that point, I was like, balls, my stuff's already on the paint desk.
Yeah, I could hear it in Tim's typed words. He's like, well, damn it.
Yeah, it was pretty close to what I was thinking the moment he said that, too.
I guess, talking about typed words, should mention that we have a Discord server set up. I don't know if we've actually mentioned it so far. I set it up forever ago. We've got a few different people that are in there and, just some that randomly pop in and out. If you're a patron, there is a patron-only section of the Discord. Don't know what we're doing with that yet, but it's there.
Yeah, so Patreon, I guess we could touch on that a little bit. We're looking at reorganizing the Patreon a little bit so that way it doesn't seem so... I don't even want to say daunting. It's just I think right now it's a little bit fractured as to how we're doing it. So I think we're just going to make it a little bit more of a free base. We haven't really discussed it yet. We just know that we're kind of we're lifting some of the restrictions that are on it right now. I guess is the best thing I could say about it.
Yeah, I mean, we keep kind of bouncing around, and yeah, part of it comes down to like you just said, we want to remove. Even restrictions isn't really the right word, but
barriers, I guess, because there's kind of a jump between the levels that we have right now.
Right, and so yeah, I think we're gonna tear it all down. It's gonna be pay what you want per episode, and is what we've been leaning towards the most. And though we'll give you stuff early, there won't ever be anything exclusive, or not right now.
Right, exactly.
There may be a few things that we at least offer to our patrons for a while, and and then like I said, then it's pay whatever you want per episode, and even that in those cases you are able to cap that. So if you only ever want to give $4 a month, you can say $4 or $1 per episode, and then once it's 4 episodes or 4 other pieces of content, it's done.
Right. Yeah, we're definitely not looking at trying to price ourselves out. Like, we know that we're not going to be some giant, hyper elite force in the Patreon world.
Well, I don't know who you're talking about, but
not anybody that deals in wargaming. I'll put it that way.
No, and yeah, and like we said before, there's a few things that that we want to do or we want to provide or make available, and Patreon will help with that, because really any one of those or every dollar that comes into that is just getting reinvested into the podcast.
Right. We have day jobs, folks. We don't need your money for that. So
nope. I got a bonus a little while back, and that totally went into the podcast too, because I bought a camera and all sorts of filming equipment to try and make sure that we come out with the best product possible. and hopefully, the quality of the camera will make up for my, shitty skills.
One step at a time, Nick.
Well, come on. No. So yeah, I mean, there's that. Now that we're, awkwardly done talking about money, Discord is just a chance for you guys to come in and chat with us. And you don't have to be a patron. I will get a link that'll go into the show notes so that people can pop in and say hi. Like Tim said, we do work day jobs, so we may not always be around, but we'll have to see.
Right.
Though I did mention earlier, and it may be a little early, but we might be adding another crew member. I was chatting with a person today who's got some video editing experience, and I was talking about we were moving into doing the video editing, and they're like, or not the video editing, but that we're producing video content, and they're like, "Ooh, I like to do video editing." And they talked about they did it in college, that they were more of an audio engineer, editor, like focus on their degree, but when they went for their internship, they got stuck into doing a lot of video editing and picked up a lot of skills. And I was like, you're hired for nothing?
Welcome to the team, intern.
Well, if hired for nothing is, internship level, then, I mean, shit, we're still interns.
Yeah,
damn it.
We are.
We're interns on our own podcast.
We suck. But
guess that's why I get my own coffee. Damn it.
But, however, we do get a beer sponsor now, so that's always a good thing.
Oh, the consolations.
So the rest of you you game podcasts out there that happen to be listening, we actually have a legit beer sponsor. So we win, you can all suck it.
Woohoo! Suck it. Not our beer.
So yeah, it's we've been moving towards some new stuff as we've been talking about. Like the video content is a big thing. Trying to stay a little bit more in touch with the audience. It's hard because when we do a podcast like this, we know that a lot of you that are listening to this right now, well, when it is released anyway, is that you're in your car, you're sitting in traffic. We're basically a welcome background noise for anything that's going on in your life. You probably listen to us while you're painting. We are not the sole focus of your attention. So with that in mind, we're trying to find ways to have the audience as a whole become more involved in the stuff that we do. So it might be like, hey guys, have you talked to this person yet? They have a game coming out, or, hey, do you guys want to talk about like this or this, or like, I mean, we haven't really talked about any controversial topics on the podcast. We try to stay away from politics and all that. But if there is something that you kind of want to hear our opinions about, or, have a discussion, we want to hear that from you as listeners. So, anything that's going to make the content better for you. Now, we're going to keep doing what we do, which is being, professionally unprofessional. That format's not going to change. But again,
that's a full-time job right there.
Yeah. If you guys want to point us in some directions of things that you want to hear us talk about, by all means, let us know. I know that we haven't really covered too much on the bigger games out there like 40K or Age of Sigmar or too much of that. But,
but there's a lot of podcasts out there.
There's a lot on that. Exactly.
There's a lot of good ones. And, it's, not that we don't love them. I know I don't have the time to really dedicate to getting an entire 40K army together as I talk about painting 200 pirates. But that's pirates. They have ships too. Damn it, I'm not going to win this one today.
You're not. You fucked yourself on that.
But no, 40K always, seems like such a massive undertaking. And I mean, I know back, I know with this new edition, it supposedly has gotten faster, but I have too many horror stories. I mean, hell, one of the first big games I played, it took us 8 hours to set everything up. Um, and that was back in like third edition where it was I go, next person goes, and I mean it was kind of an apocalypse level game. There was like 8 of us playing, and I think we each had 1,000 points. So, it's things like that. I really, really, with everything that I'm painting, the fact that I have definitely painter's ADD or hobbyist ADD, I'm like, ooh, shiny, and jump to something new way too often. It just means that 40K is just too much work in the long run.
Yeah, well, let's face it. I mean, that whole ooh shiny concept is kind of why we enjoy skirmish gaming a lot more than most of the other stuff, is because of the fact that we can go ooh shiny. So not feel bad about it.
Well, yeah, there is that, but I mean, on top of that, like even though I'm talking about painting 200 pirates, that's actually 3 different factions of guys, yes. And there's a lot of variation with all of them, because the basic unit is each unit has 4 different model types. So it isn't like Space Marines where it's, oh, this guy has a las cannon and that's the only thing different. This guy has a plasma pistol and this guy has a bolt pistol. Yes, variety. It is, even if I'm painting, 4 units, I'm still painting, 4 different types of guys in that unit. So, there is some chance for, doing something different, and batch painting them isn't as much of a chore.
Right.
That's one of the big things is that, painting should never be a chore. And I know people who absolutely love painting all of their 40K stuff and going one after another.
Yeah, not me.
Exactly. Not us. We're much more like, ooh, this is neat and this is different. I definitely love that about a lot of games, and hell, I love that just about models. I love the different kinds of models and stories behind them, narratives, and all that.
Yeah. So speaking of models and whatnot, and stories and narratives, since we're talking pretty much about a lot of Osprey stuff coming out, so for Dracula's America, we will be using, for the most part, the official models from the game. So my other faction that I'm going to be getting is the Congregation, which is kind of the Voodoo Swamp Cult. So those are all going to be 100% North Star military figures, the ones that they officially made for the game. I've got some Red Hand Coven that are coming in as well, just to kind of add some vampire cowboys in there for flavor. But the one thing that we haven't really talked about too much is kind of the different model ranges that we use on the game. So I know in Scrappers, most of the stuff that I used was actually Mantic, and I actually used a Mars Attacks Specialist Force set for my guys. Nick, what did you end up using on that?
And I think we did talk about it before, but I actually used This Is Not a Test, guys, from World's End Publishing. I used the Peacekeeper Force.
Nice.
They did me well, and they will be crossing the boundaries. They are the Stone Mountain Rangers, and they will be showing up in This Is Not a Test.
Nice. So one of the big games, again, like we're all really excited about it today. We're talking about how we're going to generate Heriter abilities and whatnot, is Ghost Archipelago. Nick, what do you plan on using for your Ghost Archipelago stuff?
That one I'm not sure about, and we were talking about it a little bit earlier. I do plan on getting some of the official North Star plastic guys, but that'll make up my crewmen and stuff like that. I know that sounds a little bit funny because I'm painting up pirates, but I didn't really see anywhere where it said guns. Now I could possibly utilize some of their guns as bows, or crossbows and bow equivalents, and go with it that way. but and maybe I will, and I'll just have to sit down and look at the rules a little bit more, because that would be kind of cool. Leoné as a character in some Frostgrave. And for anyone who doesn't know who Leoné is, he was
a monster.
A monster. He was a psychopath, even to other privateers of the time. They were just like, dude, you are in the head.
Yeah, he was. Yeah, that's all I'm gonna say. that pretty much states it. So, I know if you guys listen to the episode where Mike Tunez was on, he's the creator of Blood and Plunder, where he's featured. The thing with
that would be the last episode.
Yeah, Francois Lyonnaise was he was such a bastard that the native Caribbeans, and again, this is all kind of hearsay and whatnot, they ripped him off. Like he landed on shore. They recognized who he was. They ripped him out of his boat, threw him kicking and screaming into a fire, ripped him limb from limb with their bare hands, and ate him. Now, the thing to keep in mind is, like, a lot of people are like, oh, well, that sounds like something that, island savages would do, yada, yada, yada. The thing of it is the native Caribs didn't actually eat people. So the fact that they did this to this guy ought to tell you exactly how much of a bad reputation this guy had.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy, some of the stories about him. Let's just say it didn't seem like somebody you wanted mad at you.
No, especially like if he wasn't getting the information out to you, he'd cut out your buddy's heart and eat it in front of you.
Well, yeah, there was that too. I mean, that and he just had a tendency, no matter if you did tell him immediately what he wanted to know, he might still just kill you.
Right.
Actually, he generally would just still kill you.
So, I know Robin hasn't really touched on it too much. He said he's kind of going through his model collection to see what he's got. But I am actually hearkening back to something I've been wanting to play and paint for a while, where I haven't been able to play the actual game, but I have the Conan board game by Monolith. And since Ghost Archipelago is very much inspired by Conan, I was like, this is a perfect time to get some of these guys painted and use them as my force in Ghost Archipelago. So you might be seeing some memorable characters such as the Kushite Witch Hunters, Shivatas. Conan himself might make an appearance, and the Black Coast.
That definitely sounds like a fun force right there.
Yes.
I'll look forward to massacring it.
So one of the other things we kind of talked about when it came time to Ghost Archipelago is the fact that we are going to randomly roll our Heritor abilities. So we can kind of talk about this a little bit now since, Ash has done some videos on it. And, the book's coming out soon. Obviously, we can't spill 100% of the beans. We can't, put up an entire, book online or anything like that. But we could talk about some of the mechanics of the game. So a Heritor is kind of your new
fantasy superhero.
Yeah, he's a fantasy superhero. So it's not like a wizard from traditional Frostgrave. They're actually same world, just different area. So a Heritor basically is a fantasy superhero that's born with this magic lineage, really, or, super heroic lineage, if you want to call it that.
Well, so, I mean, the backstory is that the Ghost Archipelago shows up every 200 years, and the last set of people that were there found these pools, and when they drank from the water of the pools, they gained these intense abilities. When they came back, they were basically really, really superheroes. As the generations have gone on, though it's gotten weaker, they still are better than your average person, and usually much better than your average person. Now the Ghost Archipelago has shown back up, and all of them, the people now called Heritors, because they've inherited the skills, feel the call of the islands to go back.
Right. So the cool thing too with that setting, which I'll touch on this, and we'll go back to talking about the Heritors and how we plan on doing everything, is that it's not all just jungle. You can run like desert islands, you can run jungle islands, temperate islands. So this is definitely allowing you to use kind of whatever fantasy terrain you want in order to play Frostgrave, which is a totally different swing from what we see from the traditional game, which was set in a abandoned, ruined winter setting.
Yeah, exactly. It's very, very open on all of that, which is nice. Not that people didn't already do that with Frostgrave. Set it wherever they had the terrain for, but at least now it's not as hard because there were some things that kind of seemed just totally bent towards being in a frozen wasteland.
Ice toads.
Yeah, I mean that could be substituted, but you don't have to anymore. Now it's got things that are just you probably would find damn near anywhere.
And dinosaurs. There are dinosaurs in the game. So
dinosaurs.
Lots and lots of dinosaurs running around and snake people.
You know what? Actually, thinking about dinosaurs, I mentioned it earlier. I mentioned Freeblades, but I have got the Trazerites, which are one of the newer factions for them that have dinosaurs.
Oh, that's right. I forgot about them. Yeah.
Yeah. There's even I even have a dude. He rides like Velociraptor type of dinosaur, and then there's another dude. He's got two like little Velociraptor. Well, they're more like the real size Velociraptors that he uses instead of like attack dogs. So I might use that. I might go pick up a few more things because I think I have 5 or 6 guys for that. So to kind of flesh out my entire war band, I'll need a few more. But because you need a Heritor, which is your hero, he can kind of look however you want, and then you have a Warden, and the Warden has one of I think it's like 6 or 7 different disciplines that they go into.
Yeah.
And they're your magic user. They're how you get around the islands. They are not the same thing as your Heritor, which is kind of nice. It's still that apprentice / wizard apprentice thing. But they are their own person. So it's more like the captains that they introduced in Frostgrave later on.
Yeah.
And then on top of that, then you get some specialists. I think you can have up to 4 specialists, which are just really good crewmen at doing stuff. And then you get crewmen.
Which are completely expendable and cost absolutely no money.
Right. So crewmen totally volunteer because they want a chance for A, the adventure, B, the chance of drinking from the super elixir if they find it. All sorts of things. So they're always like, yeah, hey, I'll go. Yeah. I totally know that you left with 20 guys just like 2 days ago and you come back with none, but I'll go with you. Let's go. Come on.
They're not very smart. They're basically the thugs from Frostgrave that could take a couple extra weapons. The only difference is now you always get sailors or you always get crew members for free. Specialists you have to pay for, so if they die, it can be costly. But you can always replace them with just an able-bodied sailor that will just be there to be a willing meat shield. So kind of going back to what we were saying before is that with the Heritors, there's actually 2 ways of creating them in the game. So you could go through the Heritor list of abilities and just kind of pick and choose to start with 5 abilities, or they have a chart where you can actually randomly roll the ability. Because remember, it's a bloodline magic and you don't really know what it is. So we've kind of decided that when we play, we're actually going to randomly roll what our Heritor's abilities are. So, that way it's kind of a surprise to us. It kind of stops people from kind of doing the whole min-max and let's build our character to be the best he can be from like right out the gate. Because if your abilities are like half tank, half stealthy, you kind of look at it and go, well, how do I go about doing this? So, there's a couple different things that, they could really create a really cool variety for a Heriter just based upon randomly rolling it. Like the ability to just say, this round, nobody can freely engage me in combat, or nobody can force a fight with me.
I'm really looking forward to it because, well, I always seem to be waiting till the last minute to get all that shit together anyways. So totally rolling it right before I start works out perfectly. I usually always have an idea, but it's, I don't know, life until it's presented right in front of me that I'm about to do it. It's always easier to put it off till a little bit later. So, that'll be fun, but also I just find that it's going to be so full of shenanigans because we'll be like, ah.
And especially if we roll it up and like we get like a bunch of stuff that lines up perfectly.
Yeah, right. I mean, if that happens, I don't know. I'd almost feel like we'd have to roll again. But then again, I think the opposite way, or the same way, if we get just the total mishmash of hell, is that we would have to roll it again and be like, no, we're going to do that one again. So it's one of those catches. I totally look forward to getting screwed. At the same time, I'm like, I don't want to get screwed. What's our conditions on rerolls?
Yeah. But at the same time, though, you still get your choice with your Warden. So the Warden is 100% choice. Your crew's 100% choice. Your Heriter, you can actually outfit however you want. However, again, it can be 100% choice in the abilities. We're just choosing to randomly roll the abilities that they start with. So it'll be fun. I'm actually looking forward to that one. So right now I've got a bunch of terrain I'm working on for this weekend. That's primarily for Blood and Plunder for this weekend. However, it is all jungle. So the fact that we're going to be having that pretty much ready to go for Frostgray's Ghost Archipelago when we film that means I don't have to do anything except paint models. Holla frickin' Luya.
I know it's we've been I think that's been one of the biggest things holding us back on some of the filming is that every time we've been like, all right, let's film this. It's like, oh, but we've got to do all this work to get, terrain together. And now we're coming to the point where we have enough terrain assembled that we can just kind of go, oh, that game. Yeah. We can use this terrain for that and that terrain for that.
Right. It'll be great. I'm actually looking forward to that greatly. So,
but we're gonna find something right after that that's definitely going to still need us to do more terrain.
Yeah, I think at that point I'm just going to throw it on you and Robin.
Well, I mean, you could do that. Actually, I know Wild on the Streets will require me to assemble a little bit more terrain and finish painting some more of the secret weapon city tiles.
Yeah, because that's all modern.
Yeah, roughly modern. And once but I did pick up a bunch of the foreground buildings, so it's not like I really have to paint it. I just have to glue it all together. But it is foreground stuff, so it takes you almost as long to glue it all together as it would to just paint it all. So, I mean,
Yeah. The sacrifices you have to make for detail. But
exactly. But, it is good stuff, and it's, it's modern city, a little bit of it was out of their what's the line? Chicago Way line. So there is some stuff that would totally fit, the older parts of a city, which is kind of where you would expect some of the Wild in the Streets, especially since Wild in the Streets isn't entirely modern. I mean, there are some, modern throw-ins, but it's a little bit of it was really when Chris Kohler was a kid, the 90s and all that, 80s and 90s. So, there's a lot of throwbacks to that too. So it really works for that stuff because, you can throw in that kind of older corner shop and, you could think of cities that probably had it there. So.
Right. There's no such thing as an Amazon warehouse.
Yeah, exactly. Get that stuff together. We can also use that for some of the scenarios in This Is Not a Test on top of some of the other terrain that we've assembled.
Yes, so we should be set. Like filming filming should come along a lot easier now that all we have to worry about is maybe a handful of models here and there every couple of weeks, compared to, again, having to build a ton of terrain, paint it all. Because when we film, we don't want to ever do unpainted terrain, unfinished models. Like we really strive to make sure that everything is complete. So that way you guys are getting the full gameplay experience, just like you would if you were to go to convention. They're not going to show you demos with unpainted models and shoebox terrain. They're not going to do that. They're going to show you fully painted sets, beautiful terrain. We want to do the same thing for you guys, especially if we're going to take the time to do these videos. Definitely. That's a personal pride thing for me. I refuse for the most part to play games with unpainted models unless I'm just getting into it and we're just learning the rules. If I'm going to tournaments and whatnot, and Nick can attest to this, I do not play with unpainted models in tournaments ever.
He doesn't. I have. But usually, I can use the excuse that I'm usually just getting into the game when all of a sudden a tournament pops up and, it's like, I guess I'll play in your tournament. Is there a painting required? No? Okay, good. Because, that's not painted yet.
Yeah. But, let's see here. So we covered Frostgrave Ghost Archipelago. We actually went on that for a little while. And again, excitement, it helps with that. Talked a little bit about our schedule coming up. We did our obligatory Patreon talk that we're still figuring it all out in order to make it more accessible to people. Kind of ranted about terrain. By the way, folks, just keep in mind, if you are still building terrain out there and whatnot, I know there's tons of Facebook pages out there that are dedicated to posting all of your miniatures. However, SSP Terrain Love 2017, we want to see your terrain because that's a very, very important piece of any tabletop game. So make sure you sign up for that on Facebook, post your stuff in there. I'll be doing it as well. And I kind of put down the challenge to say, hey, look, guys, you know what? If you guys can actually outdo me as far as doing terrain this year, then we'll actually throw you guys some extra prizes towards the end of the year in order to make sure that you're rewarded for your hard work. Because we want to see a lot of beautiful tables. The last thing we want to see is when you guys start posting pictures and whatnot and playing the games that we're playing, you're doing it with unfinished terrain.
It's a tragedy. Not really. I mean, you play a game to play the game, and the game is fun. It is that much more with it painted. But, actually Benson Green and I have had, great conversations about it. You don't have to paint your terrain for it to, or for the game to be fun to you. For some, it's more fun because it's an immersion factor. And, when you can immerse yourself in the game because you see the game as it is, and all that, it's good stuff. So, don't feel bad if you want to go play a game and you don't have your stuff painted.
Right.
Because God knows I have been demoing Blood and Plunder, and I had so many people wanting to play it one day. I went and bought another box of guys, entire starter set, and went down and plopped it down. So it's bare metal, hasn't been trimmed at all. Some of the other historical gamers that were around there are like, oh, so we're playing with ghosts tonight. And I went, I don't give a shit. You don't have to play. But if you want to, then yes. But, it's just, it's have fun with the games that, you have.
Let people enjoy themselves.
Exactly. And, yeah. Now, If we're filming and all that, and you can hear this from Ash, Mini Wargaming, or pretty much anyone else that films on a regular basis, they do talk about how it is just that much better when they're presenting, and especially for Ash and Mini Wargaming, their filming isn't just a filming; it's a product. It is. For Ash, it's still his hobby. Mini Wargaming is their day-to-day job, but it is still a product they're presenting to the world. So,
Exactly. And again, kind of going back to the whole SSP Terrain Love 2017. I'm in no way sitting here saying you can't play a game with unfinished terrain. It's just I really want to see people put forth the effort to show terrain. They're always showing models, and you almost never see the terrain outside of a few groups. So we just want to give people the opportunity to, make terrain a goal. Not just something that you kind of do on the side between games, but make it a goal.
Because terrain needs love, damn it.
Exactly.
Terrain's still a model.
Let's see. Nick, is there anything else that we forgot to throw in during the podcast? I think we pretty much covered everything we wanted to talk about tonight.
I think we hit everything and then more. So I think we're actually doing pretty good. We set a goal for our hobby banter, and actually I think we hit everything.
Yeah.
I do want to say, thank you to all the folks that have slowly been climbing out of the woodwork. It's been nearly 2 years, but suddenly we're starting to have like active feedback on the podcast. It's been kind of unique and different. There's people going, hey, I really like this, or hey, I didn't like this. To those who said that, just say something rude or whatever and move on. No, not really. No, I mean, it's been fun, and Tim said it earlier. There have been either guests who've been on the podcast who say, hey, you should talk to this person, or there've been listeners who've gone, hey, have you guys heard of this? And it's like, no. And some of our favorite guests have come from that, or our regulars are just hell. Some of our most enthusiastic listeners are people who got referred to, or got referred to us through that means. They may not have even ever popped on.
That is true. So awesome. I think that's a good point to end the episode for tonight, so we can get back to work on some stuff. And it's going to wrap up this episode of Skirmish Supremacy, and we will see you next time. Bye! Thanks for listening to another episode of Skirmish Supremacy. To see more of the antics that Nick and I do, you can check us out on Facebook at Skirmish Supremacy. We also have Twitter, which we can be reached at Skirmish Supreme, because apparently Skirmish Supremacy does not fit in Twitter. And if you want to email us directly, you can reach us at tim@skirmishsupremacy.com or nick@skirmishsupremacy.com. Thanks for listening.